Hi everyone. Hello animals. So today, are vegans in denial? Are vegans in denial? Are we in denial apart from everything else that we do wrong? I've been thinking, it's really cold. It's raining. And it's been raining for weeks actually. Okay. And people are saying, yes, but that's what the UK is like. No, it shouldn't be like this in June. And it's been really kind of playing on my mind. And if it wasn't June, you could kind of say, yeah, that's all right. Context is everything. All right. Context is key. Context, the cats are making a noise here, allows us to make sense of things and decide and prioritize. So, what does cats are trying to get raid the rubbish bin now? I might have to break off. So, decide and prioritize. So, maybe I need to prioritize the cat experience of Bob, come on, babe. The rubbish. So, what in times of climate catastrophe? So that's what this is all about. So today I'm going to be sharing on, and thank God I've got notes actually, is how, number one, how the lack of context is weakening vegan activism. Number two, how the denial of many vegans on climate catastrophe is hugely undermining our animal activism. And number three, that's the good news, is what we can do to make our activism more effective and real in the climate catastrophe context. So hold on to your hats. And so this is Pamela from Animal Justice Emergency. And we do comment, analysis, opinion on animal activism in a time of breakdown, which is now. And that's why I've changed the camera view so we can see the rain-sodden garden behind me. Where plants are sort of rotting and dying and being annihilated by snails because it's Snailmageddon. So, have you heard that thing about angels dancing on the head of a pin? In medieval times, scholars who were getting very into the nitty-gritty of various different aspects of Christianity were said to be talking about the number of angels that could dance on the head of a pin. And they were accused of doing this while the city they were in was being besieged. So sometimes I feel like this is what experiences come into the whole sort of vegan space. But we owe it to ourselves and the other animals to, as well as be debating this kind of stuff, surely, I think, but tell me in the comments if I'm wrong, please do tell me. Do we not also need to acquaint ourselves with what's going on outside of the vegan bubble? And today I'll be talking about catastrophic climate breakdown and contextualizing vegan activism in this context of catastrophic climate breakdown. So, first of all, I've just been doing this. I've been sort of reading and watching videos, and it is actually really quite depressing. I mean, I did know it all before, not all, but I've taken a sort of like mini refresher course of catastrophic climate. There's a passing mention, but there doesn't seem to be this driving sense of, this is happening and it's happening now and it's happening soon. I'm talking about the majority. I'm not talking about a few honourable exceptions, and we'll get into that later. So basically, various number crunching scientists and activists are predicting, amongst other things, what's called a blue ocean event, which means that all the ice in the Arctic will have melted over the summer, and they're reckoning it's going to be the next year or the following year, 2023, right? So basically, when that happens, the Earth's climate systems, which are already massively destabilized, become massively even more destabilized. All what that means is that I mean, there are so many impacts, but one of the major impacts is crop failure. Although it is because yes, I know. One of the things that happens obviously with the weather, and that's why I've got the garden as the background, is that you notice, in my case, the peas are goners, the little pea seedlings that I put in, totally buggered. Various other sort of, I think, tomatoes, knackered, what was it, sunflower, knackered. And it's kind of brought home in a very sort of like visceral way, you know, the whole sort of impacts of catastrophic climate breakdown. This is just tangential, this is weather. But on a global sense, in a global sense, this is what is happening. I think crop yields were down last year, I can't remember, 20%, I think is what I heard. Global crop yields were down 20%. You only need 3 years of that, apparently. And you're looking mass starvation in the face. Yes, concerning that sense of urgency and how quickly the challenges of, for example, mass starvation potentially and civil unrest can happen is what gives me a sense of urgency. So that's the first thing, context, catastrophic climate breakdown. 2, now, obviously, any human being in their right mind confronted with these sort of horrible things that they don't want to ignore, they don't want to acknowledge, whether you're a vegan and climate catastrophe, or whether you're a non-vegan who doesn't want to address the horrific realities of what you're doing to other animals. You have this wonderful mechanism that kicks in called denial, and we all know about this as vegans. But we can get out of that denial, but it takes a bit of motivation, it takes a little bit of work. And that's what I think it really needs for us to do now, because as the time of catastrophic climate breakdown is, it's here and it's happening and it's getting worse every single minute of every single day of every single year. How can we not be using this to inform our activism? And I don't just mean talking about animal agriculture, the animal industrial context, the animal death industry, as that on its own. I mean, obviously talking about it from the perspective of the deaths of billions or indeed trillions of other animals, all of them individuals. Yes, all of them are individuals, but also there's a genociding thing going on as well. We can do the two things at the same time, can't we? We can talk about the animal death industry and we can talk about the individuals who are, as we all know, facing horrible lives and really horrible, horrible deaths, and the environmental context and consequences, biodiversity loss, and the fact that it's so freaking unfair for everyone. But do we? I think the denial that we as vegans are in about, mainly about catastrophic climate breakdown, and there's this sense, I've talked to even the people that actually know about it, they seem to think, like most people, that this is something that's going to trickle on down sort of maybe 100 years down the line, maybe 50 years down the line. But it's not that it's happening now and it's been happening for decades. And that the exponential nature of it, and now we all know the word exponential, don't we? Because it's like what COVID did, means that, and the feedback loops, means that things can go horribly wrong very, very quickly. And this would seem to me a reason, I mean, again, correct me if I'm wrong, bung it in the comments, please, to really factor in the animal death industry as a target for us in our activism, and the urgency. I mean, I'll just come back to this urgency, which I just don't see. I mean, I really don't see it. Maybe it's me. So if we only do have a few years or a couple of decades, which is what, the climate scientists are saying, in which to tackle the disaster of climate collapse and mitigate for some kind of survival, which, some of the scientists are saying is a bit on maybe yes, maybe yeah, no, this is survival as a species, right? Surely we as vegans and activists need to really double down on our activism now at every opportunity and integrate it into a climate collapse context in the same way that we need to be integrating this into a neoliberalism context, because they're all interconnected, they're all intertwined. The neoliberal push to consume, to make profit at all costs has been a key driver of the climate change project, which people like ExxonMobil and the political classes, the business classes have known about for decades and have tried to shut us up, and keep the public unaware. And they've done a fantastic job. It's not like they didn't know. So that's where the neoliberalism thing comes in. So, 3, if we are going to make our activism real, if we are going to cut through our own denial, that means incorporating a sense of urgency into our work. And we need to constantly, I think, reiterate the animal industrial complex connection to climate catastrophe, COVID and other pandemics, biodiversity loss, and then obviously again, as I said, the appalling destruction of both individual animals and the collective genociding of trillions of fellow beings every single year. The thing is, if we don't have this context, in my opinion, and please, again, feel free to selling out other animals because of our own reluctance to challenge the status quo in a meaningful and direct way. And it is hard. I mean, it is hard work to cut through that denial because of the implications. But I don't really see anything else other than that. Now, I think there's a great example while I was preparing this talk. On Saturday, I heard that Animal Rebellion had targeted four McDonald's distribution centres in the UK, which was great, but they only sort of blockaded them for 24 hours, and maybe that's a logistics thing. Maybe that's because they didn't have enough people. Fair play, that's great that they're doing that, but we need to. I'm just trying to check and see if I'm still live streaming because it seems to have frozen. I'll just carry on anyway. But could have been for longer days, really. So, what can we do about this? If we're consumers, so there we go again. If we're consumers of media, which most of us are, I think we need to be talking about the context and the urgency of animal liberation and contextualizing it for the people that we're consuming our media. Catastrophic climate breakdown, and it does make you quite miserable, but then you sort of have to get on with it, and it's a reality check. And as I said, I think it's really important to creating that urgency and hopefully more actions that we can do. So if you like the sound of this, because of the lifting of most of the COVID regulations, we Animal Justice Emergency will be engaging in a number of different projects from now on. So please talk to us in the comments, or you can go to the Animal Justice Emergency page on Facebook and talk to us in the messaging bit. If you'd like to get involved, or if you've got any ideas for things that you'd like to get involved in. And some of the projects are probably not what you'd necessarily expect, but it's all sort of a work in progress at this point. So that was my thoughts on urgency and catastrophic climate breakdown and denial. And I'd be really interested to hear what your thoughts are and the way forward, because it is a thing. Anyway, thank you for your time today. I hope you have a